The British colonization of the Americas began in the early 17th century and lasted until the late 18th century, playing a crucial role in shaping the modern history of North and South America. Unlike the Spanish and Portuguese who focused on large-scale conquest, the British primarily established settler colonies, commercial outposts and trading ventures. The British presence in the New World laid the foundation for modern nations such as the United States, Canada, and several Caribbean states. Early colonization efforts. The first serious British attempt at colonization came in 1585 with the Roanoke Colony, established in present-day North Carolina under the sponsorship of Sir Walter Raleigh. However, this colony mysteriously disappeared, becoming known as the Lost Colony. The first successful English colony was Jamestown, Virginia, founded in 1607 by the Virginia Company. Initially struggling with disease, starvation, and conflicts with indigenous peoples, Jamestown survived largely due to tobacco cultivation, which became a lucrative cash crop. Expansion and settlement. During the 17th century, British settlers established multiple colonies along the eastern seaboard of North America. The Plymouth Colony, 1620, and the Massachusetts Bay Colony, 1630, were founded by religious Puritans seeking freedom from persecution in England. Other colonies such as Maryland, 1634, and Pennsylvania, 1681, were established for religious and economic reasons. By the late 17th century, Britain controlled a wide range of settlements, including the New England colonies, the Middle colonies, and the Southern colonies, each with distinct economies and social structures. British colonies in the Caribbean and South America. The British also expanded into the Caribbean, establishing colonies such as Barbados, Jamaica, and the Bahamas. These territories became major centers for sugar production, relying heavily on the transatlantic slave trade. British traders also operated in South America, particularly in Guyana and the Mosquito Coast, modern Nicaragua and Honduras, where they engaged in trade with indigenous peoples and privateering against Spanish ships. Relations with indigenous peoples. British colonization often led to conflict with Native American tribes. Unlike the Spanish, who intermarried with indigenous peoples, the British largely sought to displace or eliminate native populations through warfare and forced removal. Conflicts such as King Philip's War, 1675–1678, and the Anglo-Powhatan Wars demonstrated the violent struggle for land and resources. However, trade and alliances also developed, particularly in regions where the fur trade was strong, such as in the north with the Iroquois Confederacy. Growth of the colonial economy. The British colonies thrived economically through agriculture, trade, and resource extraction. The southern colonies became heavily reliant on slave labor, producing tobacco, rice, and cotton for export. The northern and middle colonies developed economies based on shipbuilding, fishing, and trade. The triangular trade system connected the Americas, Europe, and Africa, facilitating the exchange of raw materials, manufactured goods, and enslaved people. The road to independence. By the 18th century, British colonies in North America had grown prosperous but increasingly resented British taxation and policies. Events such as the French and Indian War, 1754–1763, and the Stamp Act crisis, 1765, heightened tensions between Britain and its American colonies. These conflicts eventually led to the American Revolution, 1775–1783, which resulted in the independence of the United States. Meanwhile, Britain retained control of Canada and several Caribbean territories, maintaining a strong colonial presence in the Americas well into the 19th century. Legacy of British colonization. British colonization had a lasting impact on the Americas, shaping the political, economic, and cultural development of modern nations. The British legal system, language, and governance structures influenced the institutions of former colonies. Additionally, British colonization contributed to the displacement of indigenous populations and the expansion of the transatlantic slave trade, leaving behind complex social and racial legacies. Although British colonial rule ended in much of the Americas by the late 18th and early 19th centuries, its influence remains evident today in the language, traditions, and governmental systems of many nations.